Good morning, everyone. If you're just meeting me for the first time, I'm dietitian Ashley Koff. I was saying to our guest, I got caught in a hailstorm and I had to look at the calendar. It's May 5th, if you're joining us live. So I was like, whoa, I'm running back home. Like, I can't believe it's hailing. Yesterday it was 70. What crazy world that we live in today. So first of all, thank you so much for joining. And if you're feeling that things are crazy, business is constantly shifting, time is uncertain, welcome to this space because we are having conversations on the regular right now and lucky enough to have awesome guests who are going to help us navigate this space and really figure out what to do better with our business. So for me as a practitioner, I've shared with many of you, I've been a practitioner for over 20 years. For decades, literally, plural, I only focused on sharing my information. I would share my information through companies, so they would take my information and share it out there, or I would share my information if people came to the website. I had blogs, I had all this information, and I never really thought about asking anyone to purchase from me. They knew they could buy sessions with me. That was something they could do to work, but I didn't have anything else on that part. And it was really interesting when I made a shift in my business maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. It started off with a membership site for individuals. And I was just sharing with Heather, gosh, my list at that point, people were like, whoa, like I had like 15,000 people on an email list. And I was regularly sending them emails, but I had never ever prime them to purchase from me. And when we did a spring cleaning of our list at one point, we got rid of 7,000 people because it was just super clear that they were not going to be purchasing. They loved getting information from me, but I had never primed them as an audience to purchase. So one of the reasons I have Heather here today is as a rock star, especially in the space with dietitians and helping them understand and navigate the business side of their business, right, in the communications. She has this awesome post that I dove into and I was like, this is really important information, especially right now in this time period where we know we want to be priming people to purchase from us, whether it's buying sessions, buying our courses, buying sweatshirts and t-shirts, buying like all these different things. But at the same time, we're so conscious of wanting to be resources they can come to for quality information, for help. And even if they're not in the position to afford something right now, how do we navigate that space? So Heather, I've set up, I have a lofty goal for you today, but I know you are the person to come to. First, I would love to hear, by way of introduction, have our audience hear from you. When you started your business, we all decide to go into business at some point and not have this be a hobby. How did you set about creating an audience and engaging people to purchase from you?
Right, well, first of all, thank you for having me. And second, that is a loaded question.
Okay,
because when I first went into business, I didn't do that.
Right.
I did absolutely nothing. I did all of the wrong things. We all go through that phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know anything about it. I'd studied really hard. I'd studied all the nutrition stuff. I knew all the chemistry. I knew all the counseling skills. I knew nothing about running a business. I'm sure many of you can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just didn't go into it with that approach. So this is something more that I have learned over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many iterations of what my business looks like. So I've done this with many different models, but it really took experience and making the decision that, oh, hey, I actually need to get people to buy my stuff, not just that I have to have something good to give them or to deliver to them. So it's really been something that I have learned along the way and not something that I set out and did right the first time.
Awesome. So for everyone here that's like Heather, like myself, exhale, pat yourself on the back because one of the reasons you're so awesome is you are an amazing practitioner. What we're going to do now is move over into the business phase. So I had a couple of conversations this week with practitioners that I was sharing with you, Heather, where, one person was like, well, I know I need to build my list. I only have 60 people on my list, et cetera. And then somebody yesterday was like, I don't even know how to get someone on my list. And I'm so overwhelmed by the idea of social media and I don't know what to put on there. And what I wanted to start off with you is like whether we have, 10 people on our list or we have 10,000 people on our list, there is a strategy to priming your audience. Our people are not born wanting to buy from healthcare practitioners. They're born wanting to get healthy from healthcare practitioners. So you have sort of a step-by-step approach. So I'd love to have you walk us through that in terms of how you can prime an audience to be ready to buy.
Sure. Yeah. There's four things that I focus on when I'm working on getting people ready to buy. But first, I'm going to say, if you're one of those people if you have 60 people on your list, if you have nobody on your list, if you have 5 people on your list, we talk so much about these big lists, and we work on building these big lists, but that small list is actually a sweet spot. So a big list is great and it's wonderful and it's more people to toss your net at. But a small list, you usually have really, really targeted potential clients on that list. Like, they really want what you have, and they're there on your list for a reason. So don't be discouraged if it's small. But so to dive into the 4 steps, these are things that you can do at any point. So it's whether you are just getting started, like you can do these from day one that you decide that you want to run a business. You can start doing them if you've been running a business for 5-10 years. You can do them if you don't have a product or service yet, or you can do them while you're creating a product or service. And that is when I really, really love to use these strategies, because a lot of times we separate things out. We're like, we either need to build our list or we need to develop our product or our service or flesh out our offer or something like that. We divide them and we separate them. And we say we have to do one and then we have to do the other. It doesn't really, like, some people do it in one order and some will do it the other. But what is really great is if you can do it at the same time. Like, imagine if you are building up your list of people that can buy from you while you are actually creating that product for them. So the first thing that I like to do is super simple. It's to build a waiting list. So you can pop up a waiting list. You can do this with like a landing page through your email provider. You can do it on a page on your website. Anything that's just going to be able to collect their name and their email. And you can put a little teaser about what's coming, when it's coming. If you don't know when it's coming, that's fine. But if you do have a date, you can do like a countdown. But you just let them know what's coming and let them know that if they sign up for this list, they can be the first one to find out when it opens or when it's ready or something like that.
Do you, when you're doing a wait list, this has come up before, do you offer an opt-in or a freebie for somebody to get on the wait list? Or is it just, hey, coming soon, be the first to find out what's actually coming soon?
So you can do it either way. I like to do it separately for 2 reasons. One, because I want you to take action right away and get people on your list. And if you need to deliver a freebie or create an opt-in, that's one more thing you have to do before you get to the point of collecting those names and email addresses. And then also, I want this waiting list to be very targeted. I want it to be people that want whatever you said is coming. I don't necessarily want it to be somebody that wanted to learn something. Like, sometimes when you have a freebie or an opt-in, yes, you can push them into buying something, but sometimes somebody truly just wants to learn and consume that information. So for a waiting list, I really want them to be targeted as saying, like, raising their hand saying, yes, please, I want this. Let me know when I can buy it from you.
Awesome.
So it doesn't mean you can't do a freebie or an opt-in.
No, I think people get really confused.
I love the separate.
Yeah, and I think people get really confused on that part. So I wanted to ask that question. And the other part is exactly, I love what you're saying, which is reducing the excuses to making it happen. So I love that. Get a wait list up there. Okay.
That is a lesson I have had to learn over and over and over. It's take the action. Don't do anything else that's going to keep you from getting to that.
Great.
Okay, so next, this is an easier one. Provide regular non-sales content. So this could look a little bit different depending on what stage you are in your business or what you're getting ready to promote or sell. But really, this is where people get to know you. You may have heard like give, ask, like that kind of model. It's you're providing value, knowledge, information, ways for them to get to know you personally. You're just putting stuff out there without asking for anything in return. And then every once in a while, you're going to sprinkle something in there where you are asking them. And that ask can be like while you're getting ready to sell something, it can be a small ask, it can be a big ask. So it could be something like join my Facebook group or, hey, sign up for my waiting list. If you do have a freebie or an opt-in, you can point them to that. You could, an even smaller one, if you don't have anything like that ready yet, you could just ask them if it's social media to comment. If it's email, ask them to reply. But so this is, you've probably heard like know, like, trust factor. It's getting somebody to know you. So I want to think about when you are buying something, whether it's a product or a service. Let's say Target aside, where you can walk in and buy absolutely anything on the shelf. Anytime you're making a purchase, you're usually thinking about it first. And you'll, especially if it's a little bit bigger purchase, you are going to research it. You might go online and look at reviews. You might compare different models. You may ask a friend. But you do a little bit of background research on something. So this is you providing that background research for them. So it can be information on the topic for whatever you're going to provide. It can be like factual information. Did you know? It could be a story about yourself, letting them get to know you. So like letting you know little bits about your personality or what you've been through and how it relates to the product or service that you're going to ask them to buy. Or it could be something kind of humorous or funny or like a funny quote or a joke or whatever kind of fits your brand and your service. So this is really just about getting out there and showing up so that you don't one day just pop up out of the blue and say, hey, buy this.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And hi, Michelle. Michelle is saying hi to us. I love, there's a reason that I love that as well, is that it allows you to also find what you're comfortable with, right? So someone was asking me yesterday, like, content-wise, what should I be doing? I was like, well, what do you like to do? What do you like to talk about? And I think there's this perception that, especially when people maybe take courses about, doing things online and that kind of thing, it's like, we should be doing things that we don't love or that like don't, isn't on that part. And I was like, look, if you love changing recipes for different diets, or if you love, going into the garden, or you like, talking to people about nutrition myths, like this is, I love that phase of this, because when people get to know you, they're going to know really what kind of value you're going to be offering. Because when you love it, it comes across better, so I really appreciate that comment. Awesome.
Yeah. And I also really like this phase for people that are working on creating something. So whether it's figuring out how you're going to deliver one-to-one services and like what you're going to cover with clients, or whether it's creating something a little bit more concrete, like a course or an ebook or something like that. This is great for when you're building it while you're doing it, because you can experiment with some of your content. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're building a module or thinking about what you're going to cover in a first session or something like that. You can put some of that information out in your social media or your emails. And one, you're letting people know what kind of knowledge you have and how you deliver it. But you're also you're kind of testing the waters and seeing how people respond to it. Right. And that can help you adjust your content along the way for the program or service that you're going to deliver. So that's really helpful, like on your end of things as well.
How do you feel about when you're in that ask? So if you're giving, ask, actually to the point that you just made, asking a survey question, right? Like, so when I say this, do you want to hear about, or, that kind of thing? Do you feel like a survey is an appropriate ask in this phase?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah,
absolutely. Especially when it comes to social media, I love doing things that will engage the audience and give you feedback. So you truly are wanting to know what they think, and it's creating engagement and opening up a conversation. And it's also helping you do research to make a better product. I love, like on Instagram, using the questions feature or polls, or like the multiple choice, whatever the multiple choice one is they have now, or on Facebook using polls, or even just like a comment, like a post, and then saying, hey, which one do you like better, A or B? Please comment A or B or whatever, or put your favorite emoji or drop a GIF or something like that. I love doing that to help give you research on your stuff, but also engage people.
I love it. And recall, for anyone who is a Shop of Tools owner, hello, Michelle, and also anyone who owns our tools, remember, there's tons of content already in there. So if you're looking for a quiz to ask about and you have our magnesium evaluation or, something like that, you can actually take some of that content in there. I just had somebody the other day actually literally just copy the information from the top of the magnesium evaluation. That was her post on stress and why magnesium is important. Of course, by the way, it has my sense of humor or the person that I worked with, that we worked with and collaborated. So if that doesn't resonate for you or your audience, shift the language in there. But you have ready-made materials. So this is that real opportunity where, just as Heather was saying, if you're in the mode of developing your course, etc., you can use your tools to actually be that information. I just did it today with, I was so happy one of our local juiceries was reopened, and I love to they have this great blend of blue magic and lemon and ginger. It's this like awesome alkaline former beverage, right? And of course I make things at home. I do water with lemon, or yesterday I was doing apple cider vinegar in a dressing, but I was like, oh, I love this. And so I was posting about, the content that was in there, and I went literally to our alkaline forming guide, took some of the information, and that's what's in there. And then I also said to them, if you want that freebie, you can get the guide, et cetera. So I think there's lots of opportunity in this space. So this is a very robust one, but it's one that I think comes a lot easier for us healthcare practitioners, because we love to give information, we love to share our knowledge, right?
Yeah, many of us are educators and teachers,
yes.
And so this is something you can do that. And then one other important part of this this aspect of getting people ready to buy is that you are training them to take action. So even if it's little tiny actions like a comment or a like or a reply or dropping an emoji, like very simple actions, you're teaching them to take action and that you welcome action and what they can expect from you. And you can build on that and ask for bigger and bigger action. So making, signing up for an appointment or buying a product or a course, that is a big action that you need them to take. So you've led them through these baby steps of taking those actions along the way. So it's not this like big, scary, oh my goodness, I'm going to interact in some way for the first time when it comes to that purchase.
So we've got build a wait list or create a wait list. Don't wait, make the wait list. And then we're in step 2. We want to share our knowledge. We want to be sharing primarily, but also baby asking, right? Like add some of the asks in there. Okay, what's number 3?
Okay. So number 3 is where we come back to creating an opt-in or some kind of freebie. And the important part here is to make sure that it relates to what you're getting ready to sell. So we talked about freebies a little bit, but really making sure that it's related to that product so that, again, you're showing them what kind of knowledge you have, you're educating them, and you can highlight in this that they may have a problem with it. Sometimes people don't know that they need a solution. And so this is where you can educate a little bit on like bringing to light, oh, maybe I do need some help with this. Or, oh, I didn't realize that, or, oh, this applies to me. So you're kind of getting them ready to be like, oh yeah, I need help with this. I need this solved. And this is where you can tie in the wait list if you want to. So you deliver the freebie or the opt-in or whatever it is to them. You deliver that to them, and you can have a series of emails. You don't need to get too complicated. It kind of depends where you are in your business right now. But you can send some emails that add to the content that you put in there and add to that value and that knowledge. And you can also, at some point in that series of emails, invite them to join that waiting list. So then you're still getting that really targeted list of people that want to buy something versus just the people that wanted that knowledge and information.
Great. Alma has a question. Hi, Muriel. Alma has a question that's a functional one. By the way, Alma, it's not a silly question, but I totally appreciate you asking. She said, when you get emails from people, do you add them one by one on your email platform? So she's using MailChimp and she just started, so she's adding one by one. But are there automated platforms? So there are automated platforms, but Heather, I'm curious, like at what phase as you're adding these in and if somebody's just starting out, do you recommend that they just go and they're adding them in, or if they're doing the wait list that it's automated?
So I would prefer automated. If you can do that. I guess it would come down to where are you getting their emails from. So if they're already online and you're getting their emails online, absolutely 100% go automated. That's what it's for. You can use MailChimp to set up that opt-in, and it's all linked in there already for you. And I don't know what it'll be called in MailChimp, but it's like either like a tag or a segment or something like that. And it'll mark the people in your email list that they've downloaded that opt-in or they've signed up through the waiting list. However you mark it. So you'll know who is who on that list. I guess if you're not doing it online, like if you do a workshop or you're just speaking to somebody and it's in person and you get their email address, then that would be where you would need to add it one-to-one.
And I have a couple of shares there. So we use, and again, it depends where you're at in building your business, because honestly, the time that it takes you to actually just add it to your email list may be a better, lower cost investment right now than some of these other pieces and setting them up and having them automated. But one of the reasons I really like what Heather's saying is that the number of times that I've had people write down their email and it's wrong or I can't read it, and then I lost that email, counts into the thousands. So there are a couple of different tools. One, Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R. You can do these zaps from different programs into your MailChimp. So there are these, and they have pretty good videos on there of how to do it. In Virtual Business School, Alma, too, we can ask Jason a little bit more about this when we have the session with him. But I think, so that's one on that part. The other one, and I have a love-hate relationship, but there is something called Lead Digits, and in ConvertKit and some of these others are also, so they're basically the text-to option. So if you are somebody who is regularly speaking, or if you are like me and you're doing videos, you'll see below on here, I have where somebody can go to a website to do their discovery call, but they could also text the word talk better to 44222. And when they do that, I actually capture their email. So for example, for years I've been doing, if I do TV or if I'm giving a talk, I'll say to somebody, if you want the magnesium evaluation, text magnesium to 44222. And then I get their email, they get the evaluation, and we're off to the races because it's also tagged them on that part. So these are business expansive things, but I think what Heather, the main point, and I totally agree on that front, there's real value in automating it. One, to know what they opted in for, because that's going to help you with your communications. And number two, with that opt-in, to make sure that they're entering their email. They can still, user error, they can still enter it in incorrectly, but less likely to on that part. So a little bit of go ahead, Heather. Yeah.
Well, and one thing you also want to make sure you're not doing it through something automated, that you have permission to add them to your list.
Right.
And that helps with that. And like you said, I use Zapier. So one of the instances where I'm not adding them automatically is I have a Facebook group, and one of the questions I ask, if they want something, they can give their email address. So that isn't something that's automated yet. So I take those email addresses and their name, and I put it in a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, and then use Zapier to add them to my email list. So then they still get tagged the way I want to, depending on like how they joined, and they still get the right information once they're in my email system.
Yeah. And we did that with our Facebook group. I like the way that you talked about doing it with a sheet and with Zapier. We also did, and Anne, who's our customer service, you'll see her, she's popped in here to give the address for Zapier. We have a landing page, and she manually will read what somebody, what we've done on that part, and then we enter that into the landing page. So you're absolutely right. There are different ways to be doing it, but the permission piece is really important. Awesome. Okay, so I want to recap, especially for those who just joined or joined maybe midway through. So Heather is taking us through the 4 steps in priming your audience. So first, wait list. Do not wait, set up a wait list. And a wait list is going to be different than an opt-in, especially in this phase. The second one is start sharing your knowledge. Share information, and then you want to start inserting what we call baby asks. And those asks can help you with market research. They can just start getting people used to responding when you are, what do you say, Heather? When you're making the asks, we're getting them into that behavior. So then the third one is now with the opt-in, where we can offer the opt-in and be moving. Okay, so we're moving
sure
on.
The opt-in is very specific to whatever you're going to sell, not just like your niche, your audience, but really specific to the offer that you're working on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So number 4, yeah.
Yeah, so number 4, and I love this one. This one's to start teasing your program or your service. Ooh. So it's like dropping little hints along the way, and you can be as overt as you want, or you can be a little bit more subtle, or a mix of both of them. And that's what I like, because people respond differently to different things. But people aren't going to buy something out of the blue. They need a little bit of a time to adjust to it. The fact that it's coming, that it's there, what it is, just like gathering this information. And this is a great way to do it. So again, as you're working on something, or as you're getting ready for that date where you're going to ask them to buy, is just dropping little hints about it. And it can be something like, hey, I'm working on Module 3 of my XYZ course, and it's on this. What do you think? Or this is so fun. Today I did this. Or you can show like behind the scenes. So if you are like recording a video for something, or you're creating a workbook, I turn the camera around and show you working on that and what you're doing. Or different ways they can use it. So just kind of let them in, like pull back the curtain a little bit and let them in, see that you're a real person, that you're building something, getting kind of sneak peeks into what it's going to be. And this is really great because you're going to express it in a way that's different than like a formal sales page or a sales call or something like that. So it's this really human language. You can really connect and build that relationship, which is a little bit different than more of like the facts and the statements that you're going to have on that sales page.
One of my absolute favorites. And I think we don't do it enough, because I think there is especially with some of us, there's a perfection, or I don't want to share something until it's fully ready, on that part. And how I was saying just a moment before, where I was like sharing this whole thing about alkaline formers, one of the reasons I was sharing it is it's like when I'm feeling I feel when my hormones shift. And what I want to start to do is I'm seeding that idea. And it already happened on my social media where someone was like, me too, I think it's PMS. Yes. It is. And I'm going to be doing my hormone program on May 13th, and I'm going to be teaching you how when your hormones shift, they throw your digestion off course. And what we actually need to do is do what's better for our digestion, not start going after what nutrients support our hormones, etc. And she's already there because the reason I use the word ooh is when do we feel ooh? It's like those hormonal shifts, right? Menopause and, during pregnancy, like all of these things on that part. So I love, if you can use language, you can use images. I just absolutely love that. That's such a great tip, Heather.
Yeah, very, very early on, I would keep everything I was working on an absolute secret. I don't know why, but it was like I couldn't let anybody know it was even happening until it was done and it was perfect. And I could answer every single question about it and say, yes, in module 6, it's going to be on this lesson or whatever. And that's not necessary. Inviting people in as you're working, as you're developing, even as you're going through different iterations or processes, I think that is so much better than keeping it all under wraps and then just popping up and being like, hey, here it is, want it?
I love that. So if we've teased them, we've got them through the tease. And then I think what can happen is, how do I know when I've teased appropriately? How am I okay, I'm going to sell now, right? And that may be different if somebody's launching something versus if I've taken them through this process and now I want them to buy a session. So can you talk about sort of the differences there?
Yeah. So, I really think it comes down to when are you ready to do this? A lot of time you're doing this because you are still creating something or getting all of your forms and intake things in line and you're getting them ready. So in that situation, I would set a deadline for yourself. When am I going to get all this done? Or when can I start this? Maybe it doesn't have to be done before you start taking the sales or the appointments, but what is my deadline? And then put it out there and work off of that. Mm-hmm. Now, if you are just working on trying to increase the likelihood that somebody would buy, warm them up, nurture them, you already have everything ready to go, then I would kind of base it based on engagement and things. Are you getting that? Are you getting a good response? Do you feel like you have people that are ready to buy? Do you have people on your waiting list? And then you can go ahead and do it. And it's up to you whether you want to do things where you have specific dates where you keep kind of going through this cycle where you're warming people up and priming them to buy and then asking them to buy, or it can be an ongoing thing where you're doing this and then you are immediately asking for them to buy. So it can be little tiny cycles or it can be longer ones.
I love that. Now, let's say that we go through this and we have, we've done it, we're out there, and we have 4 people on our waiting list. And we really felt like, gosh, I did a lot of work. I kind of feel like maybe I should wait till I have 30 people on my wait list, or maybe I need 150, or I saw that somewhere that when you have 1,000 people. So you know where I'm going with this. When do we say hey, I got these 4, let me work with these 4, versus hey, I should go back and either reapply and, do some of these things or, on that part?
Well, I think it can be a mix. I think it depends. If you have 4 people on your list and you have done all these things and you are ready, launch it, put it out there, ask for the sale. Those 4 people, they're there on that list for a reason. And think about what 4 sales in your business means. Think about even if only one of those people buy, what does that mean to you and your business? Mm-hmm. And I think whether you get those people or any of those people or not, or you want to move on, I think the important part is to take what you did, go back, look at it. You can look at analytics. You can look at the data. You can look and see how people responded to certain things and see what you can do to do it again better. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the mistakes we make is we try to do this and we either launch or we didn't get enough people, so we don't launch, or we don't put it out there, or we put it out there and we didn't get the sales. And we're like, okay, well, that doesn't work. Let me try option C. Mm-hmm. And we move on to something else and we try a different approach. And trying a different approach is great, but you really got to work through and make sure that you've really done everything you can for that first approach. So a lot of times it's going through and just editing, revising, trying again. You're having new people join you all the time and they're seeing it for the first time. We also think people see all of our stuff and they don't. So even if you did all the right things and you shared all the right things and you sent all the right emails, if people didn't open it, read it, then it doesn't matter. So you need to keep doing it. Okay. So I really think taking what you did and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and really fleshing it out and going through different iterations till you really figure out what works. I think that's really important because every time you do it, you're going to have more people and more people are going to buy. You're going to learn more. You're going to be able to say things better, position things better, and you're just going to keep going. So eventually it's just math. There's more and more people, and more people buy, and you have more people to pull from, and then more people buy.
So totally putting you on the spot. So if it doesn't come to mind, we'll keep moving. But is there either for yourself, you mentioned like, hey, I had to learn this. So either in your own experience or with a client or someone that you've engaged with, an example of this where you saw that like maybe their first one they did and they were like, and then they changed something based on what they learned and had a more successful, or, you know, it continued to build at the second round.
I mean, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. So I don't know if you can think of one instance in particular, but a lot of times it comes down to, it kind of circles back to getting to know your audience better and the language they're using and really who you want to target. So a lot of times people will start out and they'll be something like, I'm going to do either a course or a series of like a program for moms. I'm going to do a program for moms. So that's what they do. And that's what they start out with. And that's the language they use. And that's what they're targeting. And that's what they're talking about. And maybe they get some sales or maybe they don't. And then they do it again. And then they realize, you know what? I'm not just talking to moms. I'm talking to moms that have toddlers at home with picky eating. So like changing their approach. That's probably a terrible example of a
it's a fabulous example. A fabulous example.
Get to your people better. And once you know your people better and their problems, then you're able to solve them better. And what I find more often is you're able to express to people how you solve them better. So you may be doing the exact same thing, but you're able to share that with somebody in a way that makes them go, oh yeah, I need that. Yeah. And so that's what I find people do through their iterations.
That's awesome. I have one more question. I want to make sure, and thank you. There's so much, and you guys make sure that we direct you over to Heather because she's got tons of resources and amazing programs. This is your time to ask questions. So I'm going to jump in before another question pops up. So what do you think about when that happens and you have people that are primed and then they don't buy? So it's, hey, like I totally want to work with you. Oh my gosh. Literally, you are what I have been looking for. Click. And I just like am sitting there waiting. It's so weird. Stacy and I had a great conversation. She said I was what she was looking for, like, you know, all this stuff, and it doesn't happen. So one thing that I have seen individuals do and do by email is, hey, I noticed you were in my shopping cart, or hey, we had that conversation. Respecting your decision, I just would love to know why you didn't, or, you know, what on that part. How do you feel about asking, and have you seen that be successful, or do you prefer to just sort of take your information from the people that have bought?
No, absolutely. I think finding out information from the people that didn't buy is just as important, maybe even more important. I don't know, but I think absolutely. So anytime that I launch something, I follow up my series of emails with a survey, and I make it really super easy because people are busy. So you can either be reply to this, or like enter this word here, or click this link. Like sometimes in your email, you can like do different link clicks and say, why didn't you buy? And give them like 3 options, maybe. I don't know. You probably know what the objections that you've heard. So put them in there or let them free respond. But absolutely, every single time I do something, I collect that information. And sometimes it's hard to read and go through. But you can do it on the phone too. And you can just ask them, be like, hey, you know, I know you weren't ready. Could you tell me a little bit more about why? Or what could I have provided that would have made this an easy yes for you? Something like that. So you are getting that feedback and that information. And I will say a lot of times this is going to be especially if you're doing discovery calls on the phone and somebody's like, yeah, this is perfect, but I just can't right now for whatever reason. There's a bigger objection going on there. So if you have the opportunity to talk through it a little bit more, not with the intention of being like, you have to buy my service right now, but just really digging to learn more. One, to help them through that decision-making process, but also so you know better how to present your information. Because sometimes there's a barrier, and it just means that you haven't proven to them that what you're going to provide is going to be valuable enough for them to do it. So yeah, I think that information is really critical.
I love it. We had a question about what services you use. I know MailChimp came up. So if you want to just, if you're open to, we always like to ask practitioners because we feel like that's way better than vetting through like just going through sales pages. So what services are you using for email and for some of these functions?
For the functions that we have talked about today, I am using MailerLite. for all of them.
Okay.
So similar to MailChimp, it starts out free. I think now it's like the first 1,000 subscribers, and it includes the landing pages, the opt-in forms, the emails, the tagging, all of that. So I use that for everything.
And it's mail or like or mailer?
MailerLite. So MailerIte.
Oh, MailerLite. Okay, got it. Yeah.
MailerLite.
And then you also mentioned you're using Zapier. You'll use that for your connections. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Are there any other tools that you're like, these are must-haves for doing the 4 steps that you were talking about?
I mean, we could dive into all the tools you could use for social media, but I don't really think you need to. I will say I like to use planning tools for all of like the social media or even the emails, just to make sure that I'm really doing that whole like value ask type pattern. And I have used either Trello. I use Trello as my project management system. So I'll use that for my social media as well. And that way I can do captions first or pictures first and kind of drag them around. And you can color code them so that you can say, okay, here, this is an ask. Like it needs to be spread out with 3 or 4 value given posts. And then I also use Later to do the same thing. I use Instagram mostly, so that I use that there just to plan stuff out and kind of get that pattern going. But those are really for all of that, the most essential tools there. I'll use Canva to design opt-ins. But yeah.
I love what you said there too with the planning and that emphasis on planning. And that really is so evident as you go through, like you're talking about the 4 steps. And then, if we actually have a system where we're planning it, we can go back and then look at how we planned it and assess and kind of see on that part. So obviously I'm obsessed with assessment. So you're speaking my language on that part. But that is awesome. So Heather, where can you primarily work with dietitians? Where can people find more information about you, and what do you offer? What is an action that someone could take if they enjoyed learning from you and are like, I want more from her?
Yeah, so my website is DietitianHQ.com. And if you go there, I have a resource library that has a whole collection of resources for you to start building and growing your nutrition business. So you can go there. You can also find me on social media. I'm DietitianHQ on Instagram. And I have a free Facebook community, DietitianHQ community for RD entrepreneurs. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But pretty much DietitianHQ everywhere.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks everyone for popping in here on Tuesday for office hours. I am hopeful that I'll go back to 70-degree weather and not hailstorms, but you never know. These days it's like, hey, we just got to be prepared for a little bit of everything that's going on. And I really, really recommend that you pop into DietitianHQ to check out those resources. And if you're not a dietitian, I also suggest heading over there. And one of the reasons is that I find personally, I learn so much when I go to and look at what practitioners are doing in other industries and other spaces. So just because it's something that says it's for a dietitian, if you're a CNS, if you're a doctor, an ND, highly recommend heading in there, because I think it's going to really bring to light some of the things that we were talking about today and hearing from Heather. So Heather, thank you so much for sharing this strategy with us. I think it is so unbelievably worthwhile. I learned a few things, so I also appreciate that, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.